Hey, welcome to Raising Justice Live. I am Doris, the author of Raising Justice Lessons Learned Through Motherhood. And
I'm Justice, the inspiration of Raising Justice.
all right, so we're so excited about having the opportunity to really speak with you guys today. And today's episode is about relationships, right? I'm going to let you know up front, this is unscripted. Like, we haven't really practiced it, we haven't created the questions around it. We just knew that we're going to talk about relationships and what they mean to us, how they've shaped our experiences, how they influence our decisions, and just the impact of relationships on your happiness. So, I mean, let's kick it off, right? So, it's going to be Q&A style. I'll ask questions, Justice will ask questions, and really, what we're allowing you to do is get a sneak peek into what some of our mother-daughter talks are like. With hopes that it inspires conversations for you guys. It brings about healing or understanding or aha moments in your life. So come on in to our mother-daughter talk. All right, Miss Justice. So I'm going to kick it off. As we're thinking about relationships, one of the questions that I really wanted to ask you was, what do you feel like you've learned from me or your parents about like relationships?
That is a great question. That's a really, really good one. I think, honestly, my parents specifically taught me the importance of having a partnership in a relationship.
Okay.
And I feel like, there's a lot of things you can learn from seeing your parents, kind of work together and create a household. And I feel like that's one of the most important things that I learned from you guys. When I went looking for somebody to be with, it was more of a thing about, would I work well with this person? We make good decisions together, not really like, oh, you're cute or things like that. Like, my parents worked together, they made good decisions together. So for me, that's naturally what I went seeking for. So
Okay.
I think I learned a lot about you guys and how you guys like, kind of function together as a unit, which is awesome.
Awesome. Awesome.
So I kind of want to like swing it back on you. What did you learn from your parents and like how their relationship was and how did that kind of like turn you into the person you are today?
Well, I guess for me, I grew up never seeing my parents together, right? So they were teen parents, and I didn't really get to experience them in a household together. But what I can say is what I learned from not experiencing my parents together is kind of what it does to what's that child experience. So it was really important for me to, even when things felt tough, even when things weren't the best, really to keep at the forefront how having a two-parent home or how us working together or how us modeling certain behaviors would have an impact on you. I think one of the things I did learn from my grandmother, so I was raised by my grandma, she was no nonsense. And so she was really good about setting boundaries, and my grandma stood on business. And so I learned that in relationships that you have to set boundaries, you have to have lines that people aren't allowed to cross, and you got to be prepared to stand on business. So that's kind of what I learned in terms of like relationships. So my next question for you is, in thinking about relationships, so today we're going to talk about three types of relationships. We're going to talk about friendships, family relationships, and then intimate or dating relationships. What do you think are like the foundation or the core elements or characteristics of good relationships?
Mhm.
And then do you think it is different? Those core things, are they different depending on the type of relationship?
That's a great loaded question.
It is pretty loaded, right?
I feel like when it comes to like the foundational aspects, I feel like it should all be kind of similar. I think like some of those traits that you're looking for are good communication, somebody who respects you, who understands your boundaries, like just common ground things that like they treat you as a human being, they see you for who you are, and they're willing to listen and be open minded with you. I feel like those should be a foundational thing for family, friends, partners, whoever. But I do think there should be different levels, different things that you do with certain types of relationships. So whether you're friends or your partner, you can't treat them all the same. Like your partner probably requires a little bit more from you than like your mom would. So it's all different. And I feel like you have to treat relationships with, kind of care and delicacy for each one. Okay. What do you think?
No, I think it's pretty similar for me. Like, I think communication, I think trust, I think shared goals or shared vision is important in all kind of relationships.
Yeah.
I think the intensity to which you need those things is different depending on the relationship.
Definitely.
So I think for certain friendships, maybe I don't need as much quality time, or the communication is a little bit different,
Mhm.
but it gets to be because of what the nature of the relationship. But no, it's top tier when it comes to my husband.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit different there. But no, I agree with you that those are some of the same like qualities that are important in all relationships.
Yeah.
I just think the degree to which we need those qualities may be different depending on the closeness.
Yeah. And the person too.
Yeah, and the person,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So in the book focuses a lot on different types of relationships. And so I don't know if anyone's asked you questions about it, but I wanted to talk to you about a couple things that I'm consistently asked when I talk to people about the book or after they've read it. They're always curious about certain characters. And guys, that is by intent. So one of the things I wanted to do was be transparent, tell my story, really give my testimony. But it was really important for me that I do things in love, and love covers, love protects, love doesn't hurt. And so I found a way to be as transparent as possible without being unloving towards certain people in the book. And so that means a lot to me, that there are certain people that their names don't even matter. It's really the lesson in it that really matters. So a lot of people have asked me like, hey, there were a couple incidents in the book where it seems like that relationship with Justice and this family member or that family member may be strained. Like, how are things now? And so while I had Justice with me, I thought it was important to bring that up, that all is well, right?
Yeah, no, I think all of the family members, like the stories that happened in my childhood, like things have evolved since then.
Yeah.
Things are way better. I don't want anybody to think that like these people hate me or hate them. It's not like that in the slightest. Like, especially certain family members, like now I get advice from these people. Like, these are people that I call on when I feel like I need direction in my life. And even though things happened in the past, like I'm able to be forgiven and just, kind of just go through the motions and kind of repairing our relationship. I feel like it took me some time to forgive these people at my current age, but it never really was an issue. They love me and I love them dearly. And I think that will never really change.
Yeah.
Even if things happen. I mean, that's just family. I think that's showing unconditional love, respecting boundaries, like just like we were talking about communication, like we've worked through that completely just by like being there for each other and seeing each other through those situations. So
yeah. So that works out pretty good. Another thing that comes up is like how we treat friendships, because in the book we talk about a mean girl experience in like 6th grade.
Oh yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, and how that kind of went, and then how in that we talk about just friendship. So I want you to elaborate a little bit on what type of boundaries or what type of things do you set up or you feel like is important in your friendships with others?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And especially with that mean girl, I mean, things have like completely 180'd. I'm one of those people who like things happen, but like I feel like there's so much room for improvement. And I try my best to be a friend that is forgiving, and I understand that there's another person on the other side. So I try to be like, okay, like there's another person on the other side. I may get irritated with you. We may have a fight or two, but I understand that like I do care about you. I want to be friends. And I feel like a lot of the times with friendships, you have to be willing to do that for somebody, be willing to care for them, even if things may not be, in the best type of state. I think just in general, friendships are so important to me. So I try my best to like keep everybody at the same level, show care, hang out, just do my best to get to know that person. And I really do value like platonic friendships. They help you out through everything.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like one of the things I'm really honored by is being pretty much a good friend. Like I'm that friend that even if you don't call me, I'll call you. If you're placed on my heart and I want to check on you, I'm gonna check on you. If I have a gathering, I'm gonna invite you. Even if you don't show up like 8 times before, I'll still probably invite you just to be inclusive. So I love I love how you love on your friends. It makes me proud because I don't think parents focus on that a lot, on being a good friend. Like I love that you're still in touch with like one of your first little friends when you were 5 years old.
That's so true.
Justice and Hope, right?
Yeah, shout out Hope. Okay, I think we're so cute. Justice and Hope.
Yeah, so I mean, to have a friend since 5 years old, I know I had my best friend since 12. And so I love that you get to have a long lasting friendship. So pretty cool. All right. So then let's talk a little bit about dating relationships. So in the book, I discuss some of the like the standards that we kind of set for justice, and like he had to have an ID card because I'm like, I don't want an irresponsible young man dating my child. Um, I told him to bring in his license and registration the first time he came to pick her up, and I made a copy of it just so he knew I meant business. Um, but we talked about, you know, what this guy looks like, and it took you almost a year after being given permission to date before you actually settled in someone because you were making sure that they checked all the boxes. So talk to me a little bit about, or talk to us a little bit about relationships and dating relationships, and how do you feel about the expectations that were set for you, and how did you kind of use that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I know since I was young, like I always really wanted to like have a relationship, have a boyfriend, all that other good stuff, like any other young girl. If you're interested in men, like that's what you want. You want a boyfriend, you want that. So I always wanted to do that. And I remember having a conversation with my mom and asking her like, can I have a boyfriend? She's like, oh, you're a little bit young. Let's wait. And let's also like, you know, make sure that you choose the right person. And I didn't take that lightly. I did understand like there is things I should look for in a person. And I feel like when you guys told me the expectations, it kind of helped me realize like, okay, maybe this is what I should be looking for. Because when I had asked you that question, I kind of already had somebody in mind, but like he had done something to me and I was like, that's not who I want to be with later on in the future. So like, that's probably why it took me like a year to find somebody that I really liked and that really respected me. But I feel like those expectations helped me choose the correct person. And that's why I think we're still together to this day. I feel like I really chose right. So I feel like he makes a lot of sense for me. And I feel like I saw a lot of those qualities that you guys asked for in him. So yeah.
I like that. I like that. I like that.
And I also like him too. Yes, you guys asked for certain things, but it's like I liked him and he happened to fit everything that worked as well.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think what we asked for wasn't really, it would help you rule out potential issues. You know what I'm saying? We didn't ask for perfection, but we asked for someone who would represent good character. And so I'm happy that you just took heed, because I think that's one of the things in parent to child relationships, that sometimes kids just don't listen to you.
And that's totally fair. I could have went down a completely different path. I really could have.
Yeah, you could have like, oh, you said that, say less and go the opposite way. So we're just grateful that you kind of listened to us and like, yeah, and kind of took it to heart and actually utilized that. So I want to talk about kind of that element of it, like that trust, that because we said so, or because we kind of gave you these key things to look for, and you taking it to heart, it really shows a level of just trust that you have in us. Where do you think that starts? How do you think, why do you think that even as you've gotten older, you still really receive and listen to us? Because again, some of my friends are kind of like surprised at how much you still listen and take heed to our word at your age. Where do you think that comes from?
That's a good question. I feel like there's a lot of like good answers I can go with when it comes to this. First, I think that I really like genuinely respect you guys. I don't know if that like, I think a lot of children respect their parents. I don't think, that's uncommon, but I genuinely see you guys and you guys make good decisions for yourselves. So I feel like I could follow what you say to a certain degree.
Okay, so we do a little bit of modeling.
Right.
So that's not do thing. As I say, not as I do. You get to see us kind of do the things.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the second thing is that you guys are able to listen and correct if needed. And I feel like that's not what a lot of parents are able to do.
Oh,
so
I like that.
Say, for example, it's like whatever you say to me doesn't make sense, or I don't feel like that's fair in that instance, I will let you know. And if you think that's the opposite, then you'll tell me. But if you think that, oh, well, actually, maybe you are right. Like maybe I was being a little bit too strict on that. Like, and I feel like the dating thing is a good example of that, because I feel like I had asked kind of early in life, but my mom was like, okay, well, I guess you are kind of age. Like I probably shouldn't be limiting you at this age, because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when I rebutted her. So I feel like that's one reason why I respect my parents and I also listen to them, because they're able to listen to me. I don't think it would be as easy to listen to them if they didn't do the same. Like I wouldn't be as interested in listening to you guys if you guys didn't want to listen to what I have to say.
I mean, I like that. Like, I think that's a really good call out, especially for parents. Like, those moments where we can kind of suspend judgment and really, I kind of spar in terms of not really sitting in authority all the time, like because I'm the parent and I said so,
right.
but really sitting in more relationship in terms of, let me hear your thoughts. Let me see why you think that way. And then, okay, you know, I get it. I think for me, I've always, well, I'm not gonna say always, but I recognized a long time ago that you're not raising children, you're raising adults. And at some point, in order for you guys to be a certain type of adult, I needed to let you practice or do some of those things as you're growing up so that you can do it in a safe space. And then when you go out into the world, you're able to do it.
Right.
So that's why I've always allowed you guys to kind of challenge me with respect or kind of debate me a little bit or negotiate, because those are skills that you need in order to survive in this world. And I wanted you guys to be able to practice. So yes, my 5-year-old negotiates. And sometimes it's really frustrating. Yeah, it's super frustrating, by the way. But he negotiates. But I know how important that skill is when you're out in the world. And I figure, if you're able to debate with me and defend your opinion or whatever with me, your mom, at home, then when someone's trying to pressure you into doing something you're not supposed to do or something you don't feel good about, then you should have no problem speaking up to them.
Right.
Because you did it with me.
Right.
And so I guess that's my thought process around it. But I like that you kind of said that. Like that's really good. So us modeling and then us allowing you to kind of share what you think and taking it in has helped cultivate this.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, like, how, because this is also an interesting thing for mothers, how do you allow your daughter to, how do you trust her to choose the right person and to do all that? Because I feel like that's probably, I feel like if I had a child, that would be really hard for me to do, to just let go or at least allow. So I would like to know your perspective on, like, when I was first dating and stuff, like, how did that feel?
For me, because of the relationship we built, I already knew that you were a little bit smarter or savvy or particular maybe than I was. So I knew you would make pretty decent decisions. So that part was kind of easy because I'm like, okay, she has good core decision-making skills. So I kind of knew that going in. I think for me, it's about what made it easier was I knew that I'm creating a safe space so that if you get it wrong, I'm with you to help pick up the pieces. If I waited until you were 18 and an adult, and then you got out here and now you're allowed to date, you're more likely to make a mistake that I'm not visible. I can't see.
Right.
Like I'm not there. You make a mistake out there by yourself. And so for me, it was like, do you rather her wait? She's grown and she's out. And then I had already did the timing. You're going to graduate at 17 years old. So you're going to be a young graduate. You're going to be off to college very young. So I'm not going to wait until I'm not around for you to get some introduction and practice in relationships. I want you to feel like you kind of know what's going on before you go. So for me, it was either you're going to do it later and you have no villains in it, or you do it now and you create a safe space so that if it goes wrong, you're there to help pick up the pieces.
Right. I think that's great advice. I love that.
So that was kind of my thought process. Is like, let's get the kinks out while you're home, while you're young enough, and then we can kind of go through it together. So I want to talk about a little bit of friendship.
Fun.
And I don't know if you've had to do this or not. This is kind of interesting, but letting go of friendships or relationships.
Yeah, this is hard.
Yeah.
I have had to do this.
Okay, so what's your thought process on having to let go? Like, what qualifies a relationship that needs to be let go of? How do you let go of a friendship? Are you more of a ghoster? Are you more of a direct conversation? How does it go for you?
That's a good question. And I feel like this is so tough because I hate friendship breakups. Like, it's one of the worst things I feel like is on this earth. Like, breakups
People don't
are bad.
talk about it, but friendship breakups,
especially women, I feel like we like attach each other to it. Like, it's
my
deep.
God. Yeah.
It's deep. So it cuts deep. So I feel like I'm not really a ghoster. I actually hate ghosting, but I have had that happen to me before.
I can't stand it. It's like no closure.
I don't like that. And
Yeah.
I feel like, you should I don't think it's doing right by the person. Everybody's different. But I think for me, I would prefer like a conversation like, hey, like, maybe this is just not the friendship that I'm looking for right now. Like, thank you for everything, but like, I'm good. And like, that's fine with me. I haven't had to personally let go, and I'm working on letting go as we speak. But I feel like a lot of times that I've heard people go through it and also talk about it, it's been a lot of like conversational or just like ghosting. So I feel like there's no in between. But I feel like we should try to find like a healthy medium. I don't know. I haven't lived like a lot of life, but I'm hoping that as I grow, I'll be able to figure out the answer to this question. But as of now, I would say like it's really a conversation. Like whenever I've had like people distance themselves from me, I'd be like, hey, it seems like we're kind of drifting apart. I hope you do well. And that's pretty much it. And that's kind of how they usually go. But, I feel like as I get older, there may be a different answer to that question. So what about you?
We'll see. All right. So I have experienced friendship breakups. And yeah, they're not pretty. They are not pretty at all. Like, I know that I literally, after one friendship breakup, was literally like depressed.
Mm-hmm.
Like depression, could barely eat. Like it just really got under me because I was so close to this person. So yeah, friendship breakups aren't fun at all. I think there is no rule book to them because it depends on the circumstances. I think in my friendship breakup that I experienced, I think that we couldn't see it at the time. But maybe separation was needed so that both of us could grow. And now as we have came back as friends, I think it still has that same level of authenticity. Like we can still have those same deep conversations with each other. Like, and we don't have to talk often, and we can just pick up the phone and it still feels like it used to feel. It's a little bit more distant in terms of we don't talk as much in frequency. I think we was talking to each other every single day, and we probably weren't having the best relationships outside of each other because we were focused on each other and attached at the hip. But I think in our separation, we both grew and matured in ways, and we were able to flourish a little bit. So I still hate that it happened. Because I love that friend, but I am happy that we were able to find our way back to friendship because I've always and will always love and adore her. But yeah, that breakup was like really hard on me. Really hard.
They're not fun
at all.
But hindsight's 2020.
Yeah,
like
hindsight's 2020. Yeah,
it's good for
we both learned and grew in those circumstances. But man, it was hard to go through.
Yeah.
All right. So last question before we really wrap up, I want to take it back to family kind of again.
Yay.
All right. So my question with this is, families have tough times. Like we all go through things as we mature, just different type of situations. What do you think is important to keeping the family bond in the midst of challenges or when things go wrong? Because I'm thinking about you. Sooner or later, you'll be out. You'll be establishing your own family, whether that's kids or not.
Okay.
That's not necessary to be a family, but in your own household. But it's going to happen. I mean, you're at the age, it's going to happen. And one of the things that's most important really is how you still bond or keep that togetherness in the midst of things going wrong.
Yeah.
So what do you think it takes to keep the bond in the midst of challenges?
Yeah, this is a good question. I feel like honestly, I may not have the answer to this one right now.
Okay.
But I think what I've observed and what I've seen is just being there.
Presence.
I think a lot of the time, like when I see people try to comfort people in our family when things go wrong, it's really just about being there. Our families, I don't know, especially on your side of the family, they're pretty silent. Like they don't say too much, but it's the fact that they're there. It's the fact that they're here. It's the fact that they're sitting there, rubbing your back if you're going through it. Like they're sitting there in your presence. If you want to talk, they're here to talk. But it's the fact that they're there. I think that's what's important to keeping family together during tough times, because oftentimes, maybe there isn't something that wants to be said, or maybe you don't want to hug, but maybe you just want somebody to be in the same room as you, somebody to experience that with you. I feel like that's always really helpful, and there's nobody else that could really fill that placement but family, whether that be chosen family, your real family. That's what's important when it comes to like tough times. I feel like presence is super important. But what do you think?
I mean, I really like that.
Yeah.
presence. Like I think that's important in the midst of challenges. I think we want to come up with all these solutions, and maybe sometimes it's just as simple as what you said, literally going through it with the person, just being present and showing up. Man, I mean, I like that. I'm gonna ditto that one because I think that I think it's the simplest form, and then I think everybody can do it.
That's true.
You don't have to be skilled. You don't have to have ICF accreditation and a bachelor's degree or master's degree or anything. You have to be a therapist in the midst of challenges, finding a way to somehow be present. Keeps the family bond. And I'm happy you've been able to observe that and see that through our family. So I really like that. So, Justice, do you have any final thoughts or things that you would like to say as it relates to relationships before we wrap up for the night?
I don't know. I feel like we went through a pretty good amount of topics, but I think overall relationships are just a task in itself, and it's going to be for different people, different relationships. Anything. But yeah, I feel like there's not really much I can add. I feel like we've gone through a lot of different good topics that give us a little insight on how we think about relationships. I mean, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, well, first of all, I've enjoyed our mother-daughter talk on camera.
We have these every day.
Yeah, I know, right? So this is pretty cool to have it recorded.
Yes.
No, but I think for me, I want to hear more questions. What are some of the questions that you have? Please email them to me, info@dorisjacksonshazier.com. info@dorisjacksonshazier.com is the email address, or you can put it in the comments right up under this video, and I will have it so that I can answer it during our live Q&A that's going to be at the end of the month. So first of all, thank you guys so much for taking the time to join our mother-daughter talks. We look forward to your feedback. Again, put your questions in the comments, or again, you can email me at info@dorisjacksonshazier.com. Please, if you haven't gotten your copy of Raising Justice, what are you waiting for? Go get your copy of Raising Justice. Get all caught up before our next session, where we're going to talk about money matters. Yes. So then you get to hear more thoughts about our money conversations. What are our spending/saving habits? How some people pretend to not have money at all. I
don't know what you're talking about.
I won't point at anybody, but definitely join us same time next Sunday, 5 p.m. to talk about money matters. Thanks again for joining us. Bye.